British Islamist journalist declares Israel must cease to exist. And okay, well, I'll get into it later. British Islamist journalist Roshan Salih, editor of Five Pillars, unleashed a fiery condemnation of Israel in a recent Blood Brothers podcast, declaring that, quote, this is still a state that cannot exist, insisting that its elimination must remain a generational mission for Muslims. Speaking with host Dilly Hussain, Salih blasted Arab nations for normalizing ties with Israel, calling their leaders secular and dictatorial sellouts who have abandoned the cause. While he claimed opposition doesn't have to mean war, he was adamant, quote, there can be no legitimacy for Israel whatsoever. Hussein eagerly agreed, hoping that, quote, more Arab countries or Muslim countries in general awake to this. The conversation laid bare an unfiltered Islamist perspective that refuses any path to peace or coexistence with Israel. So, Armin, my friend, roll the clip. Roll the clip.
Wait, which one? Bring it up. This
Oh,
let me mute
this
both
one.
of them.
You have
Oh,
to
this
unmute
one.
it.
Okay, so unmute it. Go at the beginning and then play.
All the secular states in the region, the Arab dictator states,
Yep.
they've all justified their alliance with Israel or their lack of aggressive posture towards Israel on those basis. We need time to rebuild. We're not in a position to fight, etc., etc. And you can see what path long term these states have gone down is to complete normalization and complete warm relationships with Israel. So as far as I'm concerned, this is still a state that cannot exist. It cannot exist. It cannot exist as an apartheid state in the Middle East. And this has to be our focus as Muslims, however long it takes. Whether it takes my lifetime, my children's lifetime, my grandchildren's lifetime, this is what has to happen. So there can be no legitimacy for Israel whatsoever. That doesn't mean you have to be fighting it. It just means that you cannot give it 1 inch of legitimacy ever.
Inshallah ta'ala, I hope that not just the new Syria, but more Arab countries and Muslim countries in general awake from this.
Ooh, these people are upset. This is I can hear the fact that they know that things are turning against them. Like this is not the Islamic world. It's not just the liberal world. It's also Arab countries, Islamic countries. They're all realizing that Israel is not going to go anywhere. In fact, it's your religion that seems to be more in danger than Israel. Israel is not going to be destroyed. Israel would outlast your religion. That I could promise you that. Israel would outlast your religion. And this was the whole point of October 7th. And I just enjoy seeing them, emotionally suffer, realizing that Israel is not only it's not getting weaker, everything they tried is backfiring. Israel is now stronger than before. And you made it stronger. You made it stronger. I mean, they were trying to cope so hard by saying, like, okay, even if Israel has so many powerful friends and so many powerful weapons, we have, with October 7th, we have managed to make Israel look bad. I mean, yeah, for a few months. Now nobody, now it's back. Now is people don't, the the so-called Palestinian cause is becoming more and more of a burden on the Islamic countries than ever before. Ben Salman actually officially came and told the Americans that we don't care about the Palestinian cause. And more Arab countries and more Islamic countries are realizing that, yeah, this is like we're falling behind because of this cause. And you are being abandoned by your fellow Muslims, and you're feeling very isolated and you're feeling very alone and you're panicking. The whole October 7th attack was a response to a panic that we are being forgotten. And yeah, your cause will be forgotten because societies need progress. Societies need to move away from death cults. Even if you want to be pretending to be a Muslim or be a nominal Muslim, you just have to, just be a Muslim by name. At the end of the day, we're all humans, and humans want to live, and humans want to have better lives. And the way to do that is to move away from a death cult. But yeah, go on, Susie.
So I actually went and watched this whole podcast that they did together. Well, I watched like
Of
95% of
course
it
you did. Of course you did.
because I wanted to know the full context of what they were saying in the full conversation. And basically the context is that Roshan and Dilly have had disagreements, very large disagreements with each other about Syria from the perspective of Islamists, basically since the conflict first arose. And so the vast majority of the conversation is just them talking about how their perspectives have changed over time, how they've changed over time, how the Syrian conflict has changed over time. What do they think about it nowadays? What do they think about it then? And what are their concerns? How have things changed? Blah, blah, blah. And also because Dilly Hussain has been to Syria many, many times, and he was in Syria recently and interviewed very high ranking HTS members, and I think was even present in a meeting with Jolani and reporting on it. And so I found this a very fascinating interview or just conversation. And a lot of people in our audience are going to be confused when I say this, but actually Roshan Salih is one of my favorite Islamists. Because he is very honest, and um he's very self-reflective, and he's very honest about his flaws, how he's changed, what his opinions are, honest about his evolution. He's very honest about his desires. He doesn't talk out of both sides of his mouth. He's I appreciate how intellectually honest he is. I've actually find it very refreshing because there's so much there tends to be so much like obfuscation, especially in the US, and he just comes out and says it, and I'm like, well, thank you for just being honest. And I also really appreciate people who are very self-reflective, and he comes across as a man who's very self-reflective. um and Actually, in this interview, Armin, I found this interesting. He talked about how he worked for Press TV for several years. I didn't know that. I
No
didn't know that
way.
he worked for Press TV before he started Five Pillars. And so part of what they talked about in this
Brother worked
conversation,
for the Mushrikeen.
yeah,
He worked for the Mushrikeen. God damn.
part of the conversation was about how
I hear him.
at different points of his life, he was never Shia. He's never been Shia. Oh, I might sneeze again.
Hail Satan. Should we do
Yeah.
that, guys? Every time someone sneezes, hail Satan.
um
There we go.
Anyways, so about how he was never been Shia, but he was like politically aligned with the accents of resistance, especially until recently. And then he moved away from that and all this stuff. But generally, they were having a discussion about the new transitional government in Syria. And this was very interesting, Armin. They were basically saying, should what standard should we hold the transitional Syrian government? Because he was expressing grave concern. He doesn't fully support HTS. Dilly is very supportive of HTS. But Roshan was not fully supportive of HTS, partially because he does not trust it. He thinks that there is a larger hand at play, and he thinks that there
Yeah, I
was
know.
more going on behind the scenes because he doesn't trust how easily they were able to come in. So he's like, I don't
Oh
know
yeah,
about this.
this is the huge internal fight right now between anti-Israelis regarding the HTS situation, right? So we have the Sunni Muslims who are very very anti-Shia, and they are more likely to completely support the HTS. They are part of the Sunnis who are anti-Israel, but they never trusted the Islamic Republic of Iran's support and the whole axis of resistance with the center, with the Shias being at the center of it. Never trusted that, and they hated the Shia for supporting Assad, and they hated the Shia for supporting Assad's brutal killing of many Sunnis. Right. The other side are Sunnis who um, consider the Islamic Republic in Iran to be the only ally against Israel that has an army, that has, the Hezbollah and the Islamic Republic. There is like think like look at all the Sunni countries, and they're like, okay, these Sunni countries are getting closer and closer to Israel. The only country that is aggressively and with an actual military fighting Israel, like, yeah, we're Sunni, and but these are our Muslim brothers, and we should work with them against Israel. So, and there's a huge debate now among Sunnis whether Shias are Muslim or not. So the Sunnis who hate, who don't trust the Shias, they consider Shias to be mushrikeen, because, especially because it's not because it's not over the disagreement of who's the successor of Muhammad after Muhammad's death. It's regarding the fact that Shias actually pray to their imams, right? Which is a deal breaker. Like, if you do that, you're not a Muslim, according to all schools of Islamic thought, right? So the Sunnis who want to ally with the Shias against Israel, they're saying that, Shias, they're doing bid'ah, they're doing something that is haram, a sin, but not to the point that would take them out of Islam. So, for example, people like Daniel Haqiqatjou would argue that, yeah, Shias are, they're doing innovation, they're changing some Islamic teachings, but they are not violating the concept of Tawheed, which is the oneness of Allah. But the problem for people like Daniel Haqiqatjou is that Shias do Shias actually do, the vast majority of Shias do have beliefs that completely contradict the concept of Tawheed as understood in Sunni Islam. And based on those standards, the vast majority of Shia Muslims will, including the founders of the Islamic Republic, will be considered infidels or non-Muslim, according to Sunni Islam. So that's a problem, and that infighting. So the whole fall of Assad in Syria has caused a huge infighting between Sunnis with regards to who trusts the support of Shias against Israel and who doesn't. And the HTS is very anti-Islamic Republic, and Sunnis were very happy. Many Sunnis were happy that this guy Jolani managed to take out Assad, because they hated Assad. Assad was a killer of many Sunnis, right? So they celebrated HTS, especially a lot of radicals initially celebrated him because of his past. I mean, he used to be like very radical, right? But and then people like Daniel Haqiqatjou and others were at first skeptical, because, first of all, this guy was against their sugar daddy, which is the Islamic Republic, and then they were like, how did he manage to be so successful so fast? And they came up with a lot of conspiracy theories that maybe this guy is a Zionist, he has Zionist support, blah blah blah. I mean, the actual explanation for why he managed to do it so fast is because Assad lost both of his supports. The Islamic Republic was busy, trying to recover from Israel, and Russia was busy in Ukraine. That's why they managed to do it so fast. There's no conspiracies required, right? But again, now that HTS and Jolani, what's his new name? I mean, his old name that he's using again, something Shar. I don't know if I forgot his new name, but the Jolani guy. Now he's talking to Americans. Now he's acting like he wants to be somewhat more liberal. And now people who are closer to the Islamic Republic, the Sunnis that want to be closer to the Islamic Republic, coming out and saying, see, we told you this guy is actually pro-West, he's a liberal and all that stuff, to basically say, I told you. So that's the infighting right now. A summary. Yeah, Ahmed al Shara. Thank you, Ahmed. Yeah, so Jolani, that's his actual real name, and he went back to his real name. Susie, are you there? Because that was supposed to be a summary, but it went longer than I thought. Did you guys appreciate that summary? Because this is a lot of drama that is happening within the Muslim community, and I just wanted to make sure that you guys understand what's happening. I just give you a quick summary of the drama. Okay, Susie, are you here? I don't know if Susie went away again, but let me actually read the comments that D has highlighted before I go to the super chat. How so this guy, it's funny because this guy was saying, so look at this. The comment was like, oh, they want Israel not to exist. And this comment was like, well, how is that going for you? That's a good comment. And then this one, do you want to read this one, Susie?
I can't see it.
Oh, you can't see it? Okay, so this guy is responding 22 Arab Muslim apartheid countries. Oh, this is actually a really good comment. So these people are saying Israel shouldn't exist. The apartheid regime shouldn't exist anymore. So this guy, Dr. Henry Silverman, is responding 22 Arab Muslim apartheid countries across 5 million square miles in the Middle East, each invaded and taken by the sword. The indigenous Jews, Christians, Maronite, Assyrians, Zoroastrians killed, ethnically cleansed, forcibly converted, and subjugated, and only one tiny Jewish state. Okay, let me see the rest of this. This is actually such a good comment. I want to get to the rest of it. And only one tiny Jewish state of 8,000 square miles cannot be permitted to exist in the region. The definition of mental illness. Okay, so I don't agree with the mental illness part because mental illness is a more medical thing and shouldn't be used as an insult, to be honest. This is worse than mental illness, but the rest of it was spot on. That was such a good comment. I love this guy, so that was good. Let me read the. Let me actually see if you are saying.
I had something
Okay.
else I wanted to bring up before we got into the summary.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
Well, basically, what was interesting about this conversation is they were kind of discussing like how to what standard should we hold the new transitional government of Syria. That this is the context of the clip, right? Because he's talking about based on what some of the HTS has said so far, it seems like they are kind of maybe being friendly to Israel by some people's standards. And what's going on there, or at least they haven't been, talking about Gaza to the extent that we would like, or maybe they are, and basically the conversation was, should we give them the opportunity to rebuild Syria? Like it's justifiable that they're not going after Israel right now. They're very weak. They have a lot of work to do. They have to focus on their own people. And then Roshan was basically saying, like, this is all true, but how often have we heard the excuse, like, oh, we need to rebuild, we need time to regroup, and then it actually leads down the path of normalization. And we can never have normalization. We will never accept normalization. So I thought that was really interesting. And the other thing I think about that at some point, I worry that there will be more pressure for non-normalization for people in the diaspora that are not in Palestine or the region than people who are actually in the region. Like, I worry that it's going to be the global diaspora who are never going to accept normalization more than the actual people that live there. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, that's on point. That's on point. With regards to, I mean, Giovanni is really trying to stabilize the whole thing, right? And there's a lot of threats from all directions coming at it. We have evidence that the Islamic Republic is actively trying to destabilize Syria now after this is happening. And do you and a lot of the connections that you're saying. So first of all, here's the thing regarding the point that you make that he's being friendly to Israel. Well, technically he's not being friendly to Israel. He's just being realistic. Okay, again, this guy seems to be smarter than a lot of people gave him credit for, regardless of what he did in the past. I'm not like excusing any of that. I'm just saying this guy seems to be pragmatic. Like he went from being idealistic to being pragmatic, right? And what he doesn't want he doesn't want to pick a fight with Israel. He seems to know that that's a losing fight, that's unrealistic. He wants to focus on Syria. He doesn't want to fight with anybody. He just wants to focus on making stabilizing Syria. I'm not saying we're going to agree with everything he does. He probably going to do things that we are going to make shows in the future and be like condemning, or I don't know, that could happen. We'll see. But the point of it is that he is wise enough to know that picking fights with Israel will is unwinnable, and it destabilizes Syria again. And Syria wants stability and peace right now. Syria is tired of war, and because he's trying to make a deal with the rest of the world and also signal to Israel that we don't want any war with you. I mean, think about it. Look at the reactions of Syria to the capture of Mount Hermon by Israel. It hasn't been very aggressive. I mean, look at the response of Jolani to Israel coming out and bombarding uh, almost everything, all the military equipment that Syria had. They're all poof in the most the largest aerial bombardment in Israel's history was just done recently on Syria, and these people didn't really there was not much of a pushback, even with wars against Israel. So these people are like, what the hell? You guys are representing Syria, and Israel just came and bombarded all your military equipment, and forget about even attacking Israel. You guys are not even in wars taking a position against Israel. So this is, to a lot of people who are skeptical about HDS, and came up with conspiracy theories that these people are Zionist puppets. To them, this is proof that these people are Zionist puppets. But they don't understand that this is just being pragmatic. Israel does that because Israel can do that. And it makes pragmatic sense for Israel to do that as well. And they are just realizing that, yeah, I'm not going to pick a fight with somebody that can do the things that they're doing and basically promising for us to do things that we can't do. This is very pragmatic. And this is what making a lot of people and anti-Zionist people angry. But one thing, I know I'm speaking too much, and we need to go to the next news and read the super chat. But just one more point for people who want to follow these geopolitics more closely. A lot of what's happening right now in Syria is about two oil fields. Okay, one in the Eastern Mediterranean and the other one in the Persian Gulf. Okay, and it's about Qatar and Turkey. Qatar and Turkey would really want to stabilize Syria right now. Uh, Turkey would love. For Turkey, is that both those gas fields are important because the Eastern Mediterranean oil fields are not that many countries recognize that as part of Turkey's territory, and Turkey just wants more countries in that region to officially recognize Turkey's ownership over them. And the new government in Syria will recognize that as Turkey's in the Eastern Mediterranean gas field, right? And also, there are the largest oil fields, gas fields in the world, is right next to Qatar in the Persian Gulf. And if Qatar ever manages to build a pipeline from there to Europe, Europe would have all the gas that it needs for the next 100 years, and it will never need Russia ever again. That's one reason why Russia didn't want Assad to fall, because if that pipeline is built from Qatar to Syria and Turkey and goes to Europe, then it would be the end. It would be the end of Europe's gas dependence on Russia. That's how big that oil field is. And Qatar and Turkey both want, for the sake of the selling these access to these gas and selling it to Europe, to have a stable Syria. And Qatar and Turkey are allies, by the way, in this. So these are the also economic reasons why everything is happening. Anyway, sorry for that. That was too long, but it's important, I think, for us to have some understanding of the economics behind everything that is happening as well.
Yeah, and what I just as a final note, one thing I thought was kind of funny about this podcast is they ended it with talking about how they've been so insulted and betrayed not only by Shias but by anti-imperialist leftists for their support for the fall of Assad. They just went off on a 15-minute rant about how they've been slandered and defamed by people accusing them of being like part of MI5 and spy agencies and all sorts of stuff, and the Zionist playbook being played by the anti-imperialist leftists who turned Islamophobes the second that this happened, blah blah blah. I don't know, just the more evidence of this whole like temporary unity just like crumbling.
Right.
Yeah. But honestly, I don't know. They're people might think I'm crazy. Like they're very interesting to listen to. Like I'm like, if
Yes.
I
No.
had
No. No. I completely agree. Yeah. Go on.
no, it's just very informative. Like they're honestly very intelligent and articulating their worldview. They're very intelligent and knowledgeable about geopolitics. So it's a higher level of of thought than we get from Ali Dawa and Muhammad Hijab.
Right. Right.
And I appreciate it in my own
Uh,
way.
Can you lift your microphone a little bit, because it's so much higher quality when it's a little bit higher. To be honest, though, Muhammad Hijab, guys, when Susanna is saying, it's not that we agree with these people's conclusions, right? But some of these people are more informed about reality than others, and it's important to listen to them to know what the like. I completely get what Susanna is saying. I enjoy listening to the fight between that Jake guy and Daniel, for example. And these people, as much as idiotic as their final conclusions are, in many aspects, they are very informed about many details about the Middle East and the details of their own religion. And it's important for us to recognize who, like Ali Dawah is not on that level. Muhammad Hijab is on that level, but he gets messy with this. Like he gets like he's sometimes he just he can be on that level. Like he does have that knowledge. But if you really want to see the people who if you want to listen to the internal discussions within the Muslim community and get a better understanding of what the higher quality conversations are, this is one place that you could listen to. Another, Daniel Haqqaju, is another place, for example, for you to get like the most of it. If you want to get the most idiotic, low level brain rot, then Ali Dava would be the best one within the Ummah that creates content that is meant for the lowest level audience. But for the highest level audience, people like this and people like Daniel Haqqaju within the Muslim community, those are the main content creators. Yeah.
Yeah, but Hakikuju can act so arrogant,
Yes.
and
So
these guys don't act arrogant the way that he does. And like Muhammad
Mm.
Hijab has that like weird bravado where he tries to come across like a WWE wrestler. And I'm like, can we just have a normal freaking conversation? Like,
Right.
yeah. And
Mm.
yeah. So this is a very, very different vibe. Um,
I just want to appreciate how you go and listen to the entire thing for you to have the right context to talk about these things. Like that is, a lot of people don't do that. So that's why you know more about these things than most people do, because you actually go listen to
mhm.
the whole conversations. And we should appreciate that, guys. Like this is why Susie knows a lot more about these than many Muslims do themselves. So
I mean,
thank you
I
for
wake
this.
up for this show and I go watch a full khutbah before coming to talk to you guys about it. Okay, that's how I spend my morning.
Yeah. That's great.
And
That's
honestly,
great.
it doesn't take as much time as you would think, because one thing I've learned is that Islamic stuff like takes a long time. Like the
Mm.
amount of time just spent on like the opening prayers is so long
Oh my
that I
God.
can cut that
Yeah.
off and it'll only actually be like 30 minutes because it's just so much.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I've
it takes a
I'm
long
now
time.
listening to these things on triple speed. I used to be double speed. Now I'm getting used to consuming content in triple speed. So this
Oh
is
my goodness,
making me
someone
go
has
through.
to brag.
Yeah. Yeah. We got two super chats. Do you want to respond to those?
Yes. So this is let's go to Gasian American first because I like his more. Gasian gave a super chat. Thank you, my friend. Oh, and we need the ruling of Mufti Armin here. Okay.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Mufti Armin, I understand it is haram to invest in the arms industry, but does this also apply to private prisons? I don't know if you know about
I
private
mean,
prisons, but
yeah, I know about private prison, but okay, so the the arms industry itself, there's nothing wrong with it Islamically. In fact, Islam is very much into the arms industry itself. I mean, Muhammad sold Jewish women and children to buy arms. Like they were free. Like in Bani Qurayza, when Muhammad captured the the all the Jews, he killed all the men, beheaded all the men, and the women and children were sold into slavery. And he with that money that he raised, he bought weapon and horses for his war. So the whole buying and selling arms, there's nothing un-Islamic about that. But when you talk about invest, there's a huge debate within Islam regarding finance and interest, which I'm not. I mean, we already had a conversation about that, right? So you cannot expect interest from your investments if you want to be a literalist and don't want to come up with excuses to make interest look like something else. Then you cannot invest in technically in anything if you expect a rate of return, if you expect a profit on your investments and interest, right? So yeah, but that industry as a whole, there's nothing is un-Islamic about that. Private prisons, I mean, there's no hadith that I've seen that would make that haram. So I would think that it should be allowed to that industry should be allowed Islamically. But again, the only problem with it is that are you looking for interest over your investments? That could be haram, the whole interest part. So there's that. That's my answer.
um, can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Yeah, things are going in and out. So Steve gave a super chat. Thank you, Steve. And he's been going off about Christianity in the live chat for context. He's saying under atheism, murder is never objectively immoral or wrong. So why not just acknowledge the subjective preferences of others? Steve, for the love of God, this is not the you know, we this is not the theme of our news show is to like debate atheism. But long story short, there is not like under atheism, the atheism like is a lack of belief. It's just saying that there is a claim being presented by theists. We do not accept that claim. And you can have basically
Exactly.
any other ideology.
Right. But let me just give you one liner to respond to this, right? So it's objectively true, it's objectively true that the vast majority of humans consider improving our well-being to be a value. That is objectively true, right? That we just want a better lives. We want to be happier. We want to see less pain, less disease, less misery. That is the goal of most humans, is improving well-being. And it's also objectively true that there are better ways to get there and there are worse ways to get there. That is what when I say we call morality, I'm talking about utilitarians, not all atheists. Okay, but you could have you do have objective morality as an atheist as well, in the way that I described it. Objectively, most of us want the same thing. We want better lives, and objectively, we could identify the ways that we could make humanity and us ourselves and other people better off, and there are objectively worse ways to do that. So that's basically just how we identify what's moral and what's not moral. Easy, and it's objective. Simple answer. And then you had the common start.
Oh, there was just this comment. Matthew said, as a Muslim, I think
Oh,
you guys are my favorite atheists. Well, thank you,
well,
Matthew.
thank you.
That's
I
very sweet.
appreciate that. That's very sweet. See,
I
guys, Muslim, we do not agree with Islam, but not all Muslims are sensitive about that. Like, I could be friends with a Muslim that doesn't accept atheism, and I could be against Islam and be friends with a Muslim. You know, disagreements disagreements does not have to turn us into enemies. Agreements does not need to be a condition for friendship. We could be very much in disagreement with each other and still be friends with each other, which is
Mhm.
good. Thank you, Matthew. Thank you for saying that.
I was gonna say that Matthew is my favorite Muslim, but I'm sorry, Matthew, that's a lie. That would have to go to my friends and colleagues.
Well, you're high up there.
Yeah. Flying Robot Duck gave a super chat saying, "How often do hadiths contradict each other? If so, what do Muslims do about it?" Well, again, I'll toss this to Mufti Armin. Give us your ruling.
Well, I mean, a lot. They contradict
Yeah.
each other a lot, but again, I don't know how you could quantify that. Like, I'm not sure. Like, we have to do numerical analysis of that. So I don't know if anyone has ever done that. However, there are ways to like just have different interpretation, trying to question the legitimacy of some hadith that contradicts the others. I mean, to be honest, the Bukhari and Muslim kind of did a lot of the heavy work to begin with to remove hadiths that were contradictory. I mean, not that they did a very good job about it, but um, there was, because when the hadith was being canonized, it was being done during the Abbasid period, which the whole scholarship around this scholarship, I say that loosely in quotation, was a lot more sophisticated. So they were able to identify any hadith that is contradictory and deem it as dhaif or not trustworthy. However, there's still a lot of contradiction. But the problem with hadith is just the idiocy and the ridiculousness more than the contradiction. But yeah, there are still contradictions. Do you know who makes the most amazing, gorgeous, and other adjectives that I can't use here on YouTube, blasphemous art ever? We do! And for some reason, we are giving it away for free. Download them now using the link in the description before we change our mind.